We are confronted primarily with a moral issue. It is as old as the Scriptures and is as clear as the American Constitution. The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities. Whether we are going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated. If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if in short he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place? Who among us would then be content with the counsels of patience and delay? 100 years of delay have passed since President Lincoln freed the slaves, yet their heirs, their grandsons, are not fully free. They are not yet freed from the bonds of injustice. They are not yet freed from social and economic oppression. And this nation, for all its hopes and all its boasts, will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Los Angeles and the rest of the world. You are listening to the very Manic Jimmy Cab Show. I am your host, Jimmy Cabs, along with my special co-host, Scott Peterson of Cryptic Slaughter. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, my man?
Pretty good. A lot to talk about. One of the things that was very interesting this week is that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame actually mentioned the inductees for this year. And usually I end up having a really big heart attack and fucking spazzing the fuck out, but not this year. As you saw there on our list, Cheap Trick, Deep Purple, Steve Miller, NWA.
Well, when you think rock and roll, you think NWA, don't you?
And Chicago have been inducted. But finally, Cheap Trick, man. For the longest time, I've been saying Cheap Trick should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Amongst others, also Deep Purple. Very, very highly acclaimed band that for some reason has been snubbed fucking forever.
Well, most of all, it's only the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which means pretty much shit all. I mean, the Chili Peppers are in the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before Deep Purple.
One of the things that's interesting, though, is Cheap Trick. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, man, but Benny Carlos and, Cheap Trick are not seeing eye to eye, so to speak.
Yep, I do know this.
So I'm kind of wondering what the drama is how is it going to unfold, you know?
I'm kind of curious about that because I know that there's a member of the band who doesn't want to play with Bunny. And I am also very curious to see what lineup of Deep Purple gets entered into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and if they'll play, because I know there's a lot of guys with all the different lineups who don't like each other. So it might be pretty fucking awesome to watch.
Isn't it?
Because they're English and they don't give a shit, so they will brawl.
It's one of these things where, like, you know what? You're being recognized and then you got to go up on stage and you got to, like, put on a good face and not fucking be like, you fucking dick, you bastard.
Just do what Alex from Rush did. Blah, 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 blah. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see how that's going to unfold. By the way, did you know that yesterday was National Fisting Day? Chester, you want to put up that photo up there for us? National Fisting Day. Happy National Fisting Day. I hope you all enjoyed National Fisting Day and you got to fist your loved one. Did you get to fist your loved one, Scott?
I raised my fist like this at her a lot, but she wasn't in the room. But,
For me, it's for me, every day is National
I know you're a big fan of that. I on the other hand, have ixnay on the fist day. Just not about it. It's not my thing.
One of the things that I want to make clear here, and this is something that needs to be pointed out, 2 fingers in a male colon is very, very heterosexual.
Oh, I don't mind it.
3 or more is gay. You know what I mean? So that's something that needs to be clarified, because a lot of times, these little young ladies, they get a little too excited and they would try to do the 3 or the 4. And you got to keep it down, man. You got to keep it sexy, but you got to keep it alpha male too. Don't you agree?
Well, does that count when I get like my yearly physical? Doc.
Do you give your doctor a fucking Valentine card?
Sometimes I wonder why both his hands are on my shoulders, but he's not a very gentle man. He's a good doctor, just not very gentle about it.
Man. You got to always make sure that you keep it gentle. You know what I mean? And at the same time, you got to make sure that he doesn't really take advantage of you.
I fingers in the butt. Why, if a girl's doing, I have no problem about it.
It's amazing, because now in this modern day and time, you would think that wouldn't be such a big thing. Like in the 80s, it was, during the Reagan era, that was homophobic. But come on. Well, prostate milking is fucking cool.
Well, to me, the whole homophobic thing I think is stupid. It doesn't matter. If whatever floats your boat, fucking rock it on, But I mean, I know I'm a clean guy, so a lot of girls don't like doing that. They don't want to touch the butt area. They'll let you do whatever you want to their ass, which is awesome. But, 2 fingers in the butt, I'm cool with.
All right. Let's talk about Christmas. Have you finished your Christmas shopping?
Yes, I have Alyssa doing the shopping for the kids and the parents. And I, already got Alyssa her present. She has her present. So she got an early Christmas present, or presents.
Nice.
So
nice.
I had the option to open my presents before Christmas, but I'm old-fashioned, so I'm going to wait till we have family and friends over on Christmas and open it up.
Well, I've been a good boy this year. I'm hoping Santa Claus will bring me some appropriate pee-hole fucking tools, because I'm sick and tired of the amateur females that I'm dealing with. If you take a look right there, look at that. That's what I want for Christmas, Scott. That is really a nice set to fuck your pee-hole with, man.
Now, is that for your pee-hole or her pee-hole?
No, for my pee-hole.
I've known you since the mid 80s, and my only question is why?
Dude, have you ever had a sounding in your urethra? Enough said. Try it.
No. I like my pee hole the way it is, and pee goes out, and I'm awesome with it.
You'd be surprised what pleasure you can contrive with those type of tools. That's what I want for Christmas.
Yeah, I'm cool with the girl playing with the butthole, but
is that too much for you?
Nah, I don't. No, don't mess with the pee hole.
What did we start off the set with there, Scott Peterson?
Well, the Almighty, one of my favorite bands from my youth, Cheap Trick, with "Hello There" from the album In Color, and then to one of the best bands of all time, motherfucking Deep Purple and Speed King off Deep Purple in Rock.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Scott Weiland's death. What do you think about that?
I was never a big, Stone Temple Pilots
guy was a
fan.
Fucking asshole. Come on, let's say it. Did you ever have any interactions with him?
I did. I met him right when Sex Type Thing, or whatever their core album with Sex Type Thing came out.
Right.
At a bar called 14 Below in Santa Monica. And he was by himself, and I just went up to him and said, "Hey, man, I'm
a big fan."
No, I didn't say I was a big fan. I said, I went to him and said, "Hey, dude, I heard your band on the radio. It's really good." And I said, all the best of luck to you guys. And he's like, "Thanks. My name is Scott." And I go, "Yeah, my name's Scott." He's like, "Oh, cool." And that was about it. And I mean, I think he's just sad. I mean, because he was someone's husband, someone's father, and growing up around someone who was a drug addict, alcoholic. If they want help, they'll get help. If they don't, they don't.
One of the things that drives me nuts is when you have that type of money, man. I mean, the guy wasn't financially destitute. No. You know what I mean? When you got that type of money and you're still, I don't know about you, but I like to look at it like when you're in your 20s, that's when you could really ride the red.
Agree.
After 35, dude, if you're still partying it up, you're asking for death. And when you got money, when you have fucking money and you're still doing that stupid shit, you know what? I don't give a fuck about that. Normally, I would be compassionate and I would say, hey, that sucks. But you know what? That guy was a fucking asshole. I had 2 interactions with him and he was a fucking dick. So, like, I really have no remorse or no sympathy for his fucking death. And I have no regrets saying what I have to say. The only thing that I think is fucked up, and it's a lesson for all of you kids out there, is you make sure if you're going to be partying, change your party oil. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every 30,000 miles, make sure you stop and flush out of your shit. And, you know, if you're past 35, you might want to reconsider doing any of that. So with that said, enough of that. All right, we got a really good show today. Scott Carlson of Repulsion. Do you know who Repulsion is?
Of course I do. Yes.
This is interesting. Very few people never recognize how innovative Repulsion was in the early 80s. Do you think of grindcore? You have to think of Repulsion. This band was doing not only what is now known as grindcore, but they were really ahead of their fucking time, man. And if it wasn't for them, bands like Napalm Death and on and on and on till present day.
I agree.
By the way, you have something in common with that. Wouldn't you agree with the cryptic thing?
If you say so, then yes, I agree 100%.
Well, Scott Carlson is going to be our special guest. He's going to be here. Repulsion is going to be playing in Los Angeles soon. We're going to talk more about that. Also, he's with Rise Above Records, and there's a lot. That's a great label. That's Lee Doran's label. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. So that being said, Chester, why don't we get into some music? Do we know what we're going to play? Hit it. Hit it.
I could ever really begin to talk to her. I mean, what can I talk about? I have nothing to talk about. I'm boring. But I know. I've been told before, so don't tell me it's not true, because it's a fact. I bore people. People look at me and they get bored. People listen to me and they zone out, bored. Who is that boring person, they think? I've never before met anyone so boring.
Take me to the information is Mr. Know-It-All.
All right. Now that we got our shit together here, Scott Peterson, what did we hear?
Well, we started off with the best band in the whole entire world for me, The Clash, White Riot.
Oh, and, rest in peace, Joe Strummer.
Anniversary of his death, 13 years.
Unbelievable.
Then we heard Church of Misery, a song called Brother Bishop. Then we heard Lucifer, a song called Sabbath off Lucifer. Then after that, we heard a band called, off Rise Above Records, Blood Ceremony, Eldritch Dark. And then we ended with a band some people might know. I mean, they're pretty good. I think the man to my left will like them. A band called Repulsion and a song called Acid Bath off their fucking iconic record, Horrified.
1984. Fuck, I can't believe it's
86, actually, 1986.
In 1984, I got a demo tape from a band from Flint, Michigan. And it wasn't Repulsion at that time. I think it was Genocide.
Genocide, yeah.
And before the term grindcore, before the labeling of that type of music, this is way before anything was even recognized as that. I think in Los Angeles, Terrorizer was somewhat doing that, but it was a little after the fact. Let me introduce my guest here, the innovative and extreme Scott Carlson. How you doing there, Scott? Thank you for being here.
I'm staying alive, Jimmy. Staying alive.
You're a very sexy man, by the way.
Thank you.
1984.
I'm surrounded by sexy men, so that's good that I can hold my own.
By the way, what moisturizer do you wear? Because you look fucking amazing. And
it's called Grease.
One of the things that's interesting for me, let's lower that bed music.
Talk about fisting.
One of the things that's very interesting for me, by the way, hey, yesterday was Happy National Fisting Day. Did you know that?
No.
What is it with this holiday? I mean, it's
I'm glad I got mine in.
Right? Yeah, there you go. 1984, one of the things that's interesting for me, Flint, Michigan. When you think of Michigan, when you think of Flint, Michigan, you think of bands coming from that whole era, like what, Bob Seger, Alice Cooper, Iggy, right? Yeah. Michigan, Detroit.
Down the road in Detroit.
Yeah.
In Flint, we actually had Grand Funk Railroad, who are from the city of Flint.
When you started playing music, what were your main inspirations at that time?
When I started playing music or when I started making bands like Repulsion and Genocide?
Well, let's start with both. What were you listening to at that time? Because, 1984, that was a pivotal year for anyone in the underground scene.
Okay, in 84, I was 18 years old. I was listening to a lot of hardcore. And by that point, I guess Metallica had a couple records out. Slayer had a couple records out. I was a first-day buyer on Kill 'Em All and things like that. I was into trading demos, and I bought a lot of demos from fanzines. Remember Metal Mania? Ron Quintana from up in the Bay Area. I used to send away, $3 for I think it was $3, and he would fill up a 90-minute cassette or something.
Did he give you the shitty Maxwells, or did he give you a good TDK?
I think they were TDK, the cheap ones though, the ones that like a $3 for $1 TDKs. They weren't good tapes. But what was important was the music that he put on them, which was Merciful Fate live soundboard recordings and Metallica radio appearances from San Francisco and all of Metallica's demos and Megadeth demos and Exodus live gigs from down the road, and it was, that stuff was amazing to hear. And, it made you feel cool because you were the only guy in the neighborhood that had it. Because everybody else was just going to the record shop and buying, Combat records and Megaforce, and that seemed underground. And then when the tape trading thing came, when that came into the scene and started exploding with all the fanzines that sprang up. Remember Brian Slagle's fanzine called The New Heavy Metal Review? Oh,
wow. You're really going back.
The magazine where I first heard of Cryptic Slaughter, Brain Damage zine, and Guillotine magazine from Florida, and Death and Destruction, all these fanzines. That sort of just got the ball rolling. And I think Metal Mania and Kick-Ass Monthly from New York as well have to be given credit, early credit. Sledgehammer Press from Michigan. These were some of the earliest fanzines. And they covered all this underground music that wasn't on record. It was only on tape.
Right.
And that just sort of, I was obsessed with that. It was like anytime I came home from school and there was a package hanging out of the mailbox, it was like Christmas Day.
Wasn't that a refreshing and very exciting era at that time? Because everything was not only so underground, but there was this whole connected network of underground fans that were really pre-internet.
You had to work at it. Now you just go online and, it's easy. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a crotchety old dude.
I do it all the time. Feel free, please.
Back in the day. But, it's true. Nowadays, you don't have to put any effort into finding information about, like, if you tell me about a band,
go on YouTube.
I can find their whole discography by the time I get home.
Yeah.
Back then, it was like, that you'd hear about a band and it was like, this spoke about in hushed tones, and you had to find somebody who had the demo, and then you found them, and like you waited 2 weeks for the demo to come in the mail, and your pulse started racing as you tore it out of the envelope, and that sort of thing is gone. And also, just music in general, back at that time in 84, 83, probably from like 82 or 80, start with the new wave of British heavy metal, going up until thrash metal started to get stale. Every time you went to the record shop and bought something or got a new demo in the mail, the band could be, there was the potential there to just change the fucking world.
Yeah,
change
absolutely.
Everything. You're not going to hear a band today, like a heavy metal band. There's still great heavy metal bands, don't get me wrong. But you're not going to hear a band that's going to blow your fucking mind and change the world. You're not going to hear another Metallica or Slayer or Voivod or Hellhammer, Iron Maiden's first album, Def Leppard's first album, Motorhead.
Yeah, we could go on and on.
Yeah, all those bands, like every week there was a new record coming out that just completely leveled everything that came before it and changed the way music was going to be made going forward. And I don't think that you hear that at least not in heavy metal. And in general, I don't think people's dedication to music, at least listeners, I know there's musicians are still very dedicated to music, but the listeners are not engaged the way they were in order for a record to just completely take over the world.
Now, let me ask you this. How do you feel when they mention you and Repulsion being part of that innovative, such a pivotal and inspirational band of that era that created what is now this whole grindcore scene? How does that make you feel?
I'm just proud of it. At this point, the shock of, the longevity is worn off. There was a time when I just couldn't believe it. Matt and I would sit there and go, I can't believe people are still asking us to play gigs. I think it's gotten to the point now where we don't take it for granted, but it's like it's just become part of our lives where there, as long as we want to play Repulsion gigs, it seems like if we're capable of doing it, we should be able to just keep going, playing gigs. And we're both doing other things with music, but we always have fun when we get up. And when we get up to do the Repulsion thing, it's like it's always a blast, and it's always kind of the same in the sense that like we always keep it real light and fun, and we always have a good time with it. The shows rarely go. Every once in a while, you have a bad gig, but it's hard to have a bad gig when the audience is so fired up, for something about that music just really brings out the goofball animal in people, and it's not in a negative way. We have people heckling us, like yelling jokes. It's all in good fun, but it's like our audience is really goofy, which is cool because we're goofy motherfuckers. So we like that.
Does it blow your mind though that the music has remained timeless?
Yeah.
And still inspirational till this day.
Yeah. Because who would have thought that type of music would have the kind of legs that it does? Like, Scott and those guys, Cryptic Slaughter, they were there as well. There were these bands, Hyrax is still around, and
don't get me started with
these bands that are you would have thought would have been long forgotten by now. not that they weren't good bands, but it's a different level from Slayer and Metallica as far as popularity and professionalism, and the also part of it is that those bands had enough success where they became a business, and it just keeps growing, where bands like Cryptic Slaughter and Repulsion never really got to that level. So we never created a business out of it. It just became like a hobby. And it is crazy that people still are influenced by that music, or there's young people still picking it up. But, I think we have to thank the internet for that, because it's much harder for it's more difficult for things to fall through the cracks, like when stuff was on record, if it went out of print, you would never see it again.
Yeah, it was out of print.
Like the New York Dolls, for instance. I remember reading an interview with Kiss, where Gene Simmons, this is probably in like 77 or 78 when I was a big Kiss fan, and Gene Simmons was talking about how much the Dolls influenced them. It took me 5 years to find a New York Dolls album. I walked into a record store one day and I saw it, and I bought it. And in fact, I was not even into Kiss anymore. It was like, probably in like 83 or 84, they reissued it on vinyl, and I was working in a coffee shop in a mall. And I walked into the record store and I saw the Dolls album, and I was like, I have to have this. I've always wanted to hear this.
Gene Simmons liked it.
Yeah. So, that's the kind of stuff, bands were, the Dolls were basically forgotten at that time. And now they're legendary, and it's because people can find out about stuff and read about stuff and find out how important those bands were at the time. And, when you listen to it, you understand why. There's a reason why when you listen to something like Repulsion or Cryptic Slaughter or the New York Dolls or the Stooges or, the MC5, you hear these bands and you compare it to everything else that was around at the time, and you go, wow, yeah, these bands were
revolutionary.
They were cutting edge, and they were definitely doing shit in a much wilder fashion than most people were.
One of the things that I've always enjoyed about your band, and then when I had the pleasure of meeting you, is the fact that you are an avid music lover, meaning that I see you quite often at different level type of shows, from underground to quote unquote mainstream metal shows. Another thing is the fact that you're very humble, which I think a lot of it has to do too with the reason why your legacy in the bands has this such a immense afterlife, so to speak. You've also been very active still. Talk to me about Church of Misery and Rise Above Records. Let's start with Rise Above Records. What's going on with that? Are you affiliated with this label?
I am. Proudly.
How come I don't get no free shit? No. Let's start with that.
Because you don't ask.
We can work that out. We'll have to talk off the air about that. We'll go out. We'll do lunch. How's that? We'll do lunch, Jimmy.
We'll do the LA.
Now you're official. You happy now?
I'm very happy.
I became affiliated with the label when, I have a long history with and a friendship with Lee Dorian that goes back to the early 90s when Cathedral first started touring America.
Incredible band.
And, Lee was in Napalm Death. So that we're sort of kindred spirits in a way. We both sort of drifted away from really fast music. And when I heard Cathedral, I was completely just blown away. Again, we're talking about the era when there were still bands around that were game changers.
Yeah.
Napalm Death. I cut it off a little early. I said at the tail end of thrash, but let's face it, Napalm Death, Carcass, these bands changed the game as well. In the early 90s.
All inspired by Repulsion.
Entombed, there were Godflesh, look what they did for
incredible,
industrial type of heavy music. They took it to another level. And so I heard Cathedral and I was just like, this is the fucking greatest band on the planet right now. I was blown away. They were my favorite new band. And when they toured, I couldn't wait to see them. I went to the show, met them. We ended up, that they were on tour with Napalm, Carcass, and Brutal Truth. So I knew all those guys. The only band on that tour that I had never met before were the guys in Cathedral. So that night I was living in Chicago at the time. We all went out and hung out at a disco club in Chicago. And I think Matt Olivo was in town at the time. Some of my friends from Michigan were out that weekend. And we all just went out and had a fucking blast and had a great time hanging out with Lee and Gaz. And shortly after that, they were looking for a bass player. After they had recorded their second album, they were looking for a bass player. And a good friend of mine from Detroit was like bugging me to audition. And I finally picked up the phone and called the Columbia Records. And they hadn't filled the spot yet.
I forgot about that. Columbia Records. That's right.
That whole earache, failed earache Columbia experiment.
That's when Columbia Records invested a lot of money in the earache, man.
Yeah, I think they had the idea that earache was going to be the next Sub Pop or something. Like they were going to be able to sign up all those bands and make millions of dollars off of them. So I ended up in Cathedral, and I played with them for a few years. I was still living in Chicago. Lee was still living in Coventry at the time. So when we got dropped by Columbia, I had to make a choice to either move to Coventry, England, or stay in Chicago. And no offense to anybody from Coventry that's listening out there, but Chicago just seemed like a better option at the time. And I was really bummed because I loved playing in Cathedral, but it just really wasn't feasible at that time for me to stay in the band. I would have been like completely flipping my life upside down to stay with the band at that point. So I, reluctantly left the band and, kept in touch and stayed friends with Lee and Gaz over the years. The lineup, flipped here and there. And a few years ago when they were getting ready to do their farewell, they announced that they were going to retire Cathedral. And they asked me to come back.
Wow.
So I dropped what I was doing, rejoined Cathedral, toured the world with them, made a record, and was able to, get closure on that part of my life that I was really unfortunate that I had to leave it in the first place. So it was amazing. It was a gift, that those guys gave me an opportunity to come back into the band. I was, moved beyond words to rejoin Cathedral. I absolutely adore that band, and I adore the guys in the band. And so after the band was done, Lee and I talk all the time. So he was looking for a new way of doing business in America. And previously the label was distributed by Metal Blade. And they did a good job, but Lee just wanted to kind of have a little bit more hands-on control over how things were marketed and delivered in the States. So I sort of came in to I don't do a whole lot, but I kind of help just kind of guide things in the right direction in America. I've found a couple bands here in California that we've signed and things like that. So it may get bigger. It all depends, I haven't left my day job yet, but.
Are you enjoying, though, the fact that for the last 30-something years, you've been so involved in music? Are you enjoying this aspect of your life now with Rise Above Records as far as like the business element of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I love, hearing bands and helping them out. There's a band that we just signed from Fresno.
It's kind of like tape trading again, right? It's kind of like rediscovering the excitement of rediscovering new music, new artists, and exposing it to the masses.
Absolutely. So, finding bands and then just helping them, not make bad decisions in the early days when they're just trying to figure out how to get their stuff out there and how to make that first move. Not that not that anybody really has a formula for for success, because, if we could do that, we'd all be millionaires. But, it's just kind of helping out. Some bands don't need it, and some bands do look for guidance, and that's fun.
Church of Misery, fantastic band out of Japan. Incredible band. I think they're highly underrated. Very influential here in the United States as well. Talk to me about your relationship with Church of Misery and what's going on now with that band.
So
how are you affiliated with that?
They're on Rise Above Records, so that's number one. When they finished the tour cycle and everything for the last album, everybody sort of left, and Tatsu was left once again being the only member.
When you say left, you mean they just bailed?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if they all left at once or if, it was just one at a time.
Does it have something to do with radiation poisoning or anything like that? What's going on?
Maybe Tatsu's just too heavy to handle. I don't know.
I think that sounds better.
Yeah. I'm not sure why they all left, but it did open the door for some fresh blood. And this new album just so happens to have a bunch of old, middle-aged white guys in the band. So it's a little bit different for Church of Misery, this album. You've got myself, you've got David Sulkin, the guitar player from Blood Farmers, and also works with Grindhouse Releasing, the amazing Blu-ray DVD company that also distributes films. Wow. And Eric Little from Earthride, the drummer. Another American guy and from another great band. So it's all great musicians. And then Tatsu wrote all the songs. And I got to say, this is probably one of the riffiest, grooviest Church of Misery records ever, which is great for us because we also had great players on it. Eric's an amazing drummer, and David Sulkin is just a fucking, completely out there, amazing guitar player.
Now, you're very gracious enough to bring us a new track. Talk to us about this track. We're going to play it right now, but tell us a little bit about that.
The song is called Confessions of an Embittered Soul, and that's the title of a book about the woman that the song is based on, and her name escapes me at the moment. It's about a woman who went to see a fortune teller. These are true stories. All of the Church of Misery songs, if you don't know, are about serial killers.
Right.
So this one happens to be about a woman who, I should have written her name down so I could remember, but it's been a while since I did this research for the record. But anyway, she went to see a fortune teller, and she was told that her children were going to die. So she decided to make an offering.
Wow.
And she killed 3 of her friends, that were neighbors. She invited them over she was also a card reader herself. So she invited people over to get their fortunes told, and then she killed them and made them into soap and tea cakes.
A perfect Church of Misery song.
Yes.
Why don't we listen to this track? This is off the Decibel Flexi?
Yeah, this version we're going to hear right now is the mix from the Decibel Flexi series, which if you buy the new issue, if you can get a subscription issue of it, it comes with this Flexi disc. And a different mix of this song will be on the album that comes out in March, which is called And Then There Were None.
All right, Chester, take it away.
Sage advice. You won't get
discipline them. I can't really just be like, hey, do you want to do it?
Yeah.
It's
Okay, Scott Peterson, what did we hear?
what we heard. We started off with the new Church of Misery Misery single with Scott on vocals called Confessions of an Embittered Soul. After that, we went to Scott's other band, Repulsion, with a song called Radiation Sickness off Horrified. After that, we heard the almighty Terrorizer, song called Afterworld Obliteration from the massive, incredible album called World Downfall. And we ended with a local band called Gravehill and a song called Away from the Light off their Gravehill EP.
This is interesting. January 9th at the Regent Theater in downtown Los Angeles. Talk about an incredible show. Terrorizer, another ahead of their time, pivotal, innovative band here from Los Angeles. Repulsion. And then Municipal Waste, I believe Night Demon. And there's a whole other array. Ghoul, another fantastic band. You guys are all playing January 9th. How do you feel about playing that show? That's an interesting bill.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. The bill was curated by Matt Olivo, the guitarist in Repulsion. So it's all friends and family. Gravehill are playing as well.
That's right.
So, yeah, it's a good, friendly bill. The backstage is obviously going to be very festive. I expect the locals to be out in droves. So, it's going to be good. Like, L.A. is our hometown now. Matt and I came from Flint, Michigan, but we both lived in Los Angeles for a really long time. Matt's been here for probably over 2 decades, and I've been here for almost 2 decades. So when we started playing again, the first time we played in Los Angeles, it kind of blew our minds. We did one like secret sort of show under the name Genocide at the Garage.
Wow.
The good old Garage.
For Greg Anderson from Southern Lord, who's a good friend of mine. He put on a show at the Garage, and I think it was Yob and Graves at Sea or something like that. I can't remember who else was on the bill. But we kind of did it as a warm-up gig before we did Milwaukee Metal Fest. Remember the old Milwaukee Metal Fest?
Yeah,
we did that.
wow.
That was probably in the early 2000s. And the guys from Sadistic Intent showed up. And they were going fucking bananas. And there were like 40 people there, and those guys made it seem like there were, 300 people there.
That's another great band. Rick and Day are fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that show was the first little inkling we got of what it was like. And then we played Murder Fest for Daniel Dismal one year. And we did it 2 years in a row because we had such a great time the first time we did it. So we were, the curtain, it was at the Knitting Factory. The curtain was down, and we were like tuning up, and people started chanting Repulsion, Repulsion, Repulsion. And Matt and I are looking at each other like, what the fuck is going on? This is weird,
Yeah, they're chanting for you. Yeah.
We had never played a show like that ever. And the curtain went up, and the place went completely insane. The whole place, I just remember it looked like a human popcorn machine or something. The whole place was like, people were just flying through the air through the entire show. And we had the time of our lives, probably one of the best shows we've ever played. And the whole time we were just completely stunned. I don't even know how we managed to make it through the set. We were so completely blown away. So playing in LA is very special. We're going to probably keep playing in LA down to, any town. We're not going to play anywhere all the time because, let's face it, we have one album. So we're not going to come around every 3 months and play that set for you, So if we can get out there and play a show once in a while in different towns that, where there's a lot of people that want to see the band, it's always great. Like later on in the year, we're going to London and playing in Manchester. We're playing at Roadburn this year, which is going to be really exciting. But the show in LA is especially, very special just because it is our hometown. We haven't played here in a while. And also 2016 is the 30th anniversary of Horrified, so we'll be playing that album in its entirety.
That's incredible.
So,
30 years?
Yeah. We recorded it in 1986. It didn't get released on vinyl until 89. but we recorded it in June of '86. So we're talking 30 years since that recording was done. In January of 1986, we did our first proper demo, which was the Slaughter of the Innocent demo, which featured a lot of the songs from the, it's actually wasn't really called Slaughter of the Innocent. That was the first, or actually what the Stench of Burning Death is what people call it, I think. But it was actually, for us, it was called like the WFBE demo. Because that's where we recorded it at this radio station in Flint. It was a public radio station called WFBE, and our friend Kenny Roberts was kind enough to take us into the studio and record us for the first time with microphones and tape, and in a studio environment. So that was the first time we'd ever done anything like that. We laid that whole tape down live on 2-track, and that was really what got the ball rolling for us. We'd had a couple like rehearsal demos circulating out there, but that was the first studio recording. That was the one that like drew the attention of Jeff Walker and Shane Embury and Lee Dorian and all these people that went on to, kind of take little bits and pieces of it and incorporate it into their own bands and become worldwide legends.
30 years. 30 years. How is it when you were back in Flint, Michigan, starting out, and to think where you're at now and the worldwide success as far as real success? Obviously, it'd be nice if you had the dough too, but the success of that music where it's so timeless and so inspirational, where there's somebody around the world listening to that and picking up a guitar and writing their own tunes, that's got to be rewarding in itself, no?
Yeah, it is. I mean, what can you say about that? It's kind of just leaves you speechless, really, in a lot of ways. But it's cool.
What a legacy.
Yeah. It's cool. It's kind of interesting that all came off of one record, In a lot of ways, that may be the reason why it is that way. I think that if Repulsion would have stayed together, I don't think that we would have pursued that fast style for forever. So maybe it's better that we broke up when we did. I mean, I know that Matt and I, the intentions were never to like be that fast. There was a time when we were pushing that. That was the agenda at one point, just to be really extreme. But that sort of was born out of an accident. It would be interesting to hear what would have happened if we just stayed together. But I think it would have changed. We would have evolved into something else. We were definitely restless and crazy kids. So I can't imagine we would have stuck with one sound forever.
You think there would have been a Turbo Lover type of transition in there for you?
I think that's where we were headed. Yeah, definitely.
Turbopulsion.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of puffy plastic jackets and short slick back hair and dangly earrings would have been in our future. But no, seriously, I don't think we would have stayed that way. But so it's cool that for Repulsion sake, it's cool that we stopped where we did, because now it's this kind of frozen in time.
Right.
And because of that, a kid can go get a Repulsion tattoo and he doesn't have to worry that like the band's going to sell out, like it's not like,
how do you
it's
feel
not like he went out and got a big Celtic Frost logo on his arm and then Cold Lake came out 2 weeks later.
How do you feel when you see these kids with Repulsion tattoos? Because there's a lot of them out there.
It fucking blows my mind how many there are, I guess. The first time I saw one was still back in the 80s, I think, or like the early 90s. And the guy was from Russia. And he sent me he sent me a letter, or maybe he sent the letter to Aaron, the guitar player in Repulsion. But I just remember we got the letter. It was probably around the time that Horrified was released on vinyl. And this guy had a coffin in his bedroom, and he slept in a coffin. And he had a Repulsion tattoo. And he sent us photos of him laying in the coffin with the Repulsion tattoo. And the guy was from Russia. So that was the first time I ever saw a guy with a Repulsion tattoo, and it was mind-blowing. That was probably like 90.
Let me tell you, I had I was fortunate, I know it's hard to believe, but I was fortunate enough to have bodily fluid exchange with a very young heavy metal young lady under 30 who had a Repulsion tattoo on what they refer to as a tramp stamp.
Wow.
And let me tell you, Scott, it was very hard to concentrate seeing that fucking logo on her body. But
did you match your one eye up with that other one eye, with the one eye zombie?
Did you give her an acid bath?
Let's just put it this way. I had to focus on other regions of the anatomy to finish.
Yeah.
For me,
It's not exactly the sexiest drawing.
He has a new love for Repulsion. Let's just say that.
30
You should have
years.
just placed an ashtray over it.
Well, I could only imagine what it must look like now. 30 years have gone by. January 9th, you're going to be playing the whole album in its entirety?
That's right. All 29 minutes of it in its entirety.
How do you feel when you're playing those tunes? Do you get like a resurgence of excitement?
Yeah, I mean, it's
do you
just
trip out on
exciting.
the reaction?
Not anymore. I don't really trip out on the reaction. Like I said, that time we played at the Knitting Factory, we were tripping out. Like I said, I'm surprised we made it through the show because we were kind of like stunned. But after that, it seems like all of our shows have been like that. So, like, you know, people just have a really strong, positive reaction to the music, and we feed off of that, and we have fun. You'll see Matt and I smiling. You know, we're not like up there like sneering at the. If I'm sneering, I'm sort of being facetious. You know, it's like I'm having a blast the whole time, and it doesn't take any effort. That's the weird thing. Like people go, "How do you do that? How do you still play that music after all these years?" And it's like, it just comes natural.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, it comes natural.
There's no pressure.
Yeah, you go to the gig and you're hanging out. It's time to play. You go up, strap your guitar on, plug it in, turn on the fuzz pedal. People start screaming, and it's just fucking on.
It's like the old days.
Exactly. It's better than the old days because nobody came to see us back in the old days.
Well, the last time I saw you guys was at the first Grindcore Fest.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys were smiling at each other while you're playing, but there were people flying fucking everywhere, singing the songs, huge pit. And I was there with Jimmy, and it to me, I remember saying to him, like, it felt like an old show from the 80s. But
yeah, that was a good one. There was no, barriers or anything around the stage. It's always good that kind of stuff. Just, LA in particular is one of the more, stronger audiences for us. But it happens when we play in London, everywhere we play pretty much these days.
I think the reason
kids go fucking bananas.
I think the reason why you have this reaction and why it's always so productive and healthy and positive is because you're not going up there as a quote unquote performer. You're not on tour where you have the whole grueling touring aspect, the scheduling, the business side of it.
Yeah.
You're going up there with your friends, playing to a group of friends from different generations.
Yeah, exactly.
Who all love the music. You love being up there. It's an interaction going on. And hey, at the end of the night, if we want to do it again, we'll do it again. If not, so be it. And there's no pressure. Have you ever thought about writing new Repulsion material, or have you been approached or coached or?
Matt and I have gone back and forth about this subject, and I think he wanted to do it at one point. I think he just gave up on me because I've always been just sort of down on the idea for the most part. But he writes, grindcore. He's very capable of writing stuff like that. He still writes it. I think he's going to come out with some grindcore music in the future, very near future. I don't know where he's at with that, but I do know that he's recorded some grindcore stuff, and he's played me demos, and it's great. You're gonna love the stuff that he's working on. But for me, there's something about Repulsion that is like more than music. It's a time and a place, and it's this little youthful thing that I had, this spark that I had at the time that I feel like I still have a spark in me, but it's focused in different places now. Like the Church of Misery record was a challenge that I looked at and went, yeah, that's something I want to try. That's different. And it's not that I think that it's a bad idea to keep making grindcore music in 2015 or 2016. It's just not in my blood. I have like a handful of grindcore songs. Every once in a while when I'm writing, it'll pop out like a grindcore riff, and I'll record it. And I've got some 3/4 finished 2-minute grindcore type songs. And who knows, maybe I'll record them someday. But the idea of like putting them out under the name Repulsion seems unfair to the Repulsion
you want to protect
name,
that legacy.
Just because people's expectations are so crazy, and there's old fans, there's new. You could argue both sides of it. You could say, who gives a fuck what people think? Just make something. On the other side of the coin, there's the like, well, it is what it is. It's kind of like perfect the way it is right now. We can go back and visit it, and it's always the same, and it always gets the same. Yeah. And like I said, all those kids out there that have repulsion tattoos, they have nothing to worry about.
January 9th at the Regent here in downtown Los Angeles. Just listen to this bill. Municipal Waste, legendary Repulsion. Terrorizer, another fantastic band ahead of their time. That's amazing live. Oscar Garcia. Ghoul, Grave Hill, Night Demon, and a bunch of other bands that are going to be on the undercard there. This is a great event. Make sure you get your tickets for this. This will sell out. This is not only an amazing show to witness, but also to witness Repulsion doing what they do best, live. If you listen to the album, you know what I'm talking about, but that energy live is something that you can never, ever replicate except on stage. So make sure you check that out. Real quick, Church of Misery. Talk to me about the record. Do you sing on that whole album?
I sing on the whole album. I wrote all the lyrics. It was, something that Tatsu and Lee came to me and said, hey, would you be interested in trying this? And I jumped at the opportunity, and I love Church of Misery. And,
wow,
I'd never sang on a slow, doomy record before. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. Let me try this. And then I realized, wait a minute, I have to write a bunch of songs about serial killers. So I had to go back and do a bunch of research, and I learned a lot. And I found my creative juices just started, at first it took me a little while to find the right gear to write lyrics like that. And then once I hit it, it was like, boom, I wrote all the lyrics in a couple of weeks. So it happened really fast once I got to that point.
Do you think you'll tour with Church of Misery?
I have no idea what's going to happen with the Church of Misery thing. It's kind of up in the air right now. I would love to see Tatsu have a Japanese band, but, who knows? I'm sure that, I'm not sure if Eric and David are into touring either. I really don't know. Because, Tatsu's in Japan and the other two guys are on the East Coast, we haven't ever, had a group discussion about the future of the band. And I'm not sure what Tatsu's plans are with it. So we'll just have to wait and see.
When is this album coming out again?
Comes out in March. Yeah. On Rise Above.
Rise Above Records.
Yep. It's called And Then There Were None. And I'm really proud of it. I think it's going to be great. The Show Your Scars thing, I'd like to mention that tickets, definitely get your tickets in advance. Just type in Show Your Scars Fest. I'm not prepared to tell you the website right now, but it's really easy to find. If you're on Facebook, it's all over Facebook, Show Your Scars Fest. I believe the tickets are sold through TicketWeb or AXS, one of those, through however you go to the Regent Theater website, and you'll find the ticket link. And it's only $25 for a fest full of amazing
all those
bands.
That's a great deal right there.
Yeah.
It's a really good deal, and the tickets are selling really well. So, I suggest people, grab the tickets. Makes a great Christmas gift.
And a Hanukkah gift.
Yeah,
all right.
Hanukkah
Let's
gift.
listen to some music, and then we'll come back and say farewell. Chester, why don't you start us off with some Repulsion there?
say yes to drugs to the point of making others uncomfortable.
Peterson, what did we hear?
We heard Uncle Acid, a song called Pusher Man. Then we heard The Mighty Repulsion, a song called Black Breath from the album Horrified. And we ended it on The Mighty Repulsion, a song called Maggots in Your Coffin.
All right, January 9th, the Regent Theater, Municipal Waste, Repulsion, legendary Repulsion, by the way. Innovative, ahead of their time. Terrorizer, Ghoul, Gravehill, Night Demon, and a bunch of other bands. This is going to be a great show. Make sure you get your tickets now. Do not miss this show because talk about such an eclectic group of bands, but also the legendary Repulsion will be playing this show.
Only West Coast appearance of the whole year.
Celebrating the 30th anniversary of Horrified. What an incredible feat. Scott, I want to thank you so much for being here and joining us. Real quick, make sure you check out Rise Above Records. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's coming up with Rise Above?
We have, in early 2016, there's so much good stuff coming out. We have the debut single by Fresno's Beastmaker.
Oh, nice.
A new doom band sort of in the vein of, Witchfinder General and Pentagram. Fantastic songs, great imagery, great lyrics. They're coming out. We have another Los Angeles band called Tarkus is coming out with a single.
I've never heard of that band.
No one has.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun.
Another reason to love Rise Above Records.
Exactly. That's right. You're going to hear them first through Rise Above Records. And we also have the new Blood Ceremony album, Lord of Misrule, coming out. I just listened to it today for the first time. And if you like Blood Ceremony, this one is just going to blow your fucking mind. It's so good.
Oh, incredible.
There's
band.
the Church of Misery record coming out. A new single from Admiral Sir Clouds We Shovel, who are one of my favorite bands right now. Just an amazing heavy rock band. So all of that stuff is coming out. There's a Dream Death Live album coming out.
Nice.
Rise Above in early 2016. Legendary East Coast doom band. So, Mike Smale, their drummer, played drums on Forest of Equilibrium, the first Cathedral album. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of really exciting things happening on Rise Above in 2016. Repulsion's got a handful of gigs after the only West Coast appearance, which will be at the Regent Theater show, the Show Your Scars Fest, and we're looking forward to that. And thank you for having me, Jimmy. It's always a pleasure to revel in the sexiness that is Jimmy Cabs.
Let's also mention this,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Scott Carlson and Jay Bennett from Ides of Gemini. They have an incredible every Tuesday night at Footsie's. This is incredible. Real DJs spinning amazing, eclectic, very rare jams on vinyl. That's going on tonight as well. So are you going to be DJing tonight?
Absolutely. Every Tuesday for the past 5 years.
I love that
5
you just
plus.
do all vinyl, man. That's so fucking... I hate going and seeing these so-called DJs and it's all with the same laptop and all that bullshit. You guys spin vinyl and then you spin some rare jams.
Yeah,
Is this off your collection?
absolutely.
Incredible.
Yeah, that bag and box that I have over there are probably worth more than all of my guitars and amplifiers put together.
See, that's amazing though, because most as a, being a musician, you'd be like, "Oh, it's my gear." Now it's your fucking record
I
collection.
have one of the goals that I've had for 2016 is thank you, by the way, for asking me to DJ there. As you know, as I mentioned to you off the record, now on the record, I have this whole social phobia thing. Or like I have...
you can do it. We will be there.
Since the age of 6, my parents been telling me what a fuck up I am. I have this fear of just scratching a record and fucking shit up, But I really want to DJ at Footsie's, man, because it's not only are you guys the real deal, but just the fact that ambience that you create, real music on vinyl, cheap drinks, Footsie's. Make sure you check that out. That's
One of our goals is to have you DJ there. So we can both achieve our goals in 2016.
I'm going to do that. For those of you who, for some reason, are going to hesitate, make sure you buy your tickets. January 9th, the Regent Theater. Repulsion, one of the most innovative, truly inspirational bands that have not only inspired so many greats that are now world-renowned, but also great human beings. I want to thank you all for listening. Scott Peterson, thank you for sitting in. Mr.
Always my
Scott
pleasure.
Carlson.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much. Check out Rise Above Records, an amazing record label. With that, Chester, take it away. Thank you for listening. See ya.